Story 1. The Haunting of Hill House. Nestled in a secluded area, Hill House stands as a haunting reminder of a dark past. This grand yet eerie mansion, with its towering spires and shadowy corners, has long been the subject of local legends. Built in the late 19th century, the house was originally designed as a family home, but its history is marred by tragedy and despair. Over the years, numerous families have reported strange occurrences, but none have experienced the terror quite like the latest occupants, the Crane family. From the moment the Cranes moved in, they sensed something was off. It began with subtle disturbances, doors creaking open on their own, whispers echoing through the hallways, and cold drafts that seemed to come from nowhere. As days turned into weeks, the eerie events escalated. Objects would inexplicably move, shadows danced in the corners of their eyes, and the children began to have vivid nightmares that left them screaming in the night. The once welcoming home transformed into a prison of fear, where every creak of the floorboards sent chills down their spines. The psychological impact on the Crane family was profound. The parents, Hugh and Olivia, found themselves at odds as they struggled to rationalize the unexplainable. Hugh, a skeptic, tried to dismiss the occurrences as mere figments of their imagination, while Olivia became increasingly attuned to the house's dark energy. The children, too, were affected. They grew anxious and withdrawn, haunted by the unseen forces that seemed to toy with their minds. The once tight-knit family began to fracture under the weight of their shared terror, each member grappling with their own fears and doubts. As the haunting intensified, the Cranes uncovered the house's sinister history. Hill House was built on the grounds of a former asylum, where patients were subjected to cruel treatments and neglect. The spirits of those who suffered lingered within the walls, their pain echoing through time. The family learned of previous residents who had met tragic fates, and it became clear that Hill House was not just a home, it was a vessel of sorrow and despair. In the end, the Cranes were forced to confront the reality of their situation. They had entered Hill House seeking a fresh start, but instead, they found themselves ensnared in a web of supernatural terror. The Haunting of Hill House serves as a chilling reminder that some places are forever marked by the darkness of their past, and that the true horror often lies within the human psyche. Story 2. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. On a foggy night, as the moon cast an eerie glow over the winding roads, a driver found himself navigating through a desolate stretch of highway. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the sound of his tires crunching against the gravel. Suddenly, he spotted a figure standing by the roadside, a young woman drenched from the rain, her thumb outstretched in a desperate plea for a ride. With a mix of curiosity and concern, he pulled over to offer assistance. As she climbed into the car, the driver noticed her ethereal beauty, her long hair cascading over her shoulders and her clothes appearing slightly outdated. They exchanged pleasantries, and she mentioned that she needed to get to a nearby town. The driver felt a strange connection with her, as if they were sharing a moment that transcended the ordinary. However, as they drove deeper into the night, the atmosphere shifted. The woman became increasingly quiet, her gaze fixed out the window, lost in thought. When they finally reached the destination she had mentioned, the driver turned to inform her they had arrived, only to find the seat beside him empty. Confused, he glanced around, searching for any sign of her. He stepped out of the car and looked around, but there was no trace of the hitchhiker. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. The chilling realization hit him. He had just encountered the infamous Vanishing Hitchhiker. This urban legend has haunted many drivers over the years, with variations of the story popping up in different cultures. In some versions, the hitchhiker is a lost soul seeking to return home after a tragic accident, while in others, she is a ghostly figure warning travelers of impending danger. Regardless of the specifics, the core of the legend remains the same. a fleeting encounter with a mysterious figure who disappears without explanation. For those who experience this phenomenon, the emotional and psychological effects can be profound. Many report feelings of confusion, fear, and an overwhelming sense of loss. The encounter leaves them questioning their own reality, grappling with the idea that they may have brushed against the supernatural. The Vanishing Hitchhiker serves as a haunting reminder of the thin veil between life and death, and the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding. Each story adds to the legend, perpetuating the fear and fascination surrounding this ghostly figure who continues to haunt the highways, forever seeking a ride home. Story 3. The Shadow Man. In the dim light of night, a figure lurks just beyond the edge of perception, a dark silhouette that sends chills down the spines of those who encounter it. Known as the Shadow Man, this elusive entity has been reported by countless individuals across the globe, each recounting eerily similar experiences. Witnesses describe the Shadow Man as a tall, dark figure, often with no discernible features, standing motionless in the corner of a room or lurking in the shadows of a hallway. The presence is typically accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread, as if the very air has thickened with fear. The sightings often occur during moments of vulnerability, such as when individuals are drifting off to sleep or waking in the middle of the night. Many report feeling paralyzed, unable to move or scream, as they lock eyes with this ominous figure. Some claim that the Shadow Man seems to watch them intently, while others describe a feeling of being followed, as if the entity is stalking them from the darkness. These common characteristics have led to various theories about the nature of the Shadow Man and what it represents. One theory suggests that the Shadow Man is a manifestation of sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where individuals wake up unable to move, often accompanied by hallucinations. However, the consistency of sightings across different cultures and contexts raises questions about the validity of this explanation. Some believe that the Shadow Man could be a spirit or a demon, feeding off the fear of its witnesses. Others theorize that it may represent a psychological projection of one's own fears and anxieties, taking on a physical form in moments of distress. Personal testimonies from those who have encountered the Shadow Man reveal the profound fear and confusion that accompany these experiences. One witness recounted a night spent alone in her apartment when she suddenly felt an icy chill sweep through the room. Turning to the corner, she saw the Shadow Man standing silently, its presence suffocating. She described the feeling as if her heart had stopped and she was unable to look away, trapped in a gaze that felt both terrifying and hypnotic. Another individual shared a harrowing experience of waking up to find the Shadow Man hovering over his bed. He described the overwhelming sense of dread that washed over him, leaving him questioning his own sanity. These testimonies highlight the emotional toll of such encounters, as witnesses grapple with the fear of the unknown and the lingering question of what truly lies in the shadows. The Shadow Man remains a haunting figure, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk just beyond our sight, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. Story 4. The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. The stillness of Blackwood Manor was deceptive, as if the house itself held its breath, awaiting Sarah's every move. When she first crossed the crumbling threshold, Sarah was struck by the sheer weight of the atmosphere, a clinging, oppressive silence that settled over her like a shroud. Dust motes danced in the pale light streaming through broken windows, illuminating the grandeur that had once been. An ornate staircase spiraling into darkness, chandeliers dangling precariously from cracked ceilings, and faded tapestries depicting cryptic symbols. Her first day in the manor was uneventful, though unnerving. Every creak of the floorboards seemed amplified in the cavernous halls. By evening, Sarah had set up her makeshift camp in the grand parlor. She lit a few candles, their flickering light casting elongated shadows on the walls, and began reviewing the footage she had captured. The whispers began softly, almost imperceptible, like a distant breeze stirring leaves. but their intensity grew, layering over each other until they formed a symphony of disjointed voices. "Sarah," the voices murmured, dragging out her name with an eerie familiarity. She froze, her breath hitching as she scanned the room. The whispers ceased, leaving a suffocating silence. Just as she convinced herself it was her imagination, a sudden loud bang echoed through the house, as if a door had been slammed shut with fury. The next morning, Sarah ventured into the west wing of the manor. Her research had hinted at a library filled with journals and records that might shed light on the Blackwood family's dark history. She found the room hidden behind a panel in the wall, a cavernous space filled with rotting books and the acrid scent of decay. Among the scattered tomes, she unearthed a leather-bound diary belonging to Eleanor Blackwood, the family's matriarch. The diary painted a harrowing picture of a family unraveling. Eleanor wrote of her husband's obsession with immortality, of secret rituals conducted in the dead of night, and of the sacrifices made to appease the shadows that whisper. The final entry, written in shaky script, read, "They are here. I can hear them scratching at the walls. My children, my husband, they are not themselves anymore. May God forgive us." As Sarah read, the room grew cold. Her breath misted in the air, and the faint scent of roses, cloying and unnatural, filled her nostrils. The candles she had lit sputtered and died, plunging her into darkness. Then a voice, clear and mournful, whispered directly into her ear, "Help us." Terrified but determined, Sarah pressed on. Over the following days, she pieced together the fragments of the Blackwood family's demise. It was clear the rituals had gone horribly wrong, binding the family's souls to the manor in perpetual torment. The house itself had become a vessel, a trap that fed on the despair of its victims. The nights grew more perilous. Shadows danced along the walls, forming grotesque shapes that reached for her. The air hummed with energy, and objects moved on their own, candlesticks sliding across tables, books flying off shelves. Sarah's resolve began to waver. One night, as she slept fitfully in the parlor, she awoke to the sensation of cold hands wrapping around her ankles. She screamed and thrashed, only to find herself alone. Yet, when she looked down, bruises in the shape of fingers marred her skin. Desperate for answers, Sarah descended into the basement, following the faint pull of something intangible. The space was a labyrinth of stone, its walls etched with arcane symbols. At the center, she found an altar stained with centuries-old blood. The air thrummed with power, and the shadows coalesced into a towering figure with glowing, hollow eyes. "You have come far," it intoned, its voice a guttural blend of many. "But you cannot undo what has been done. Leave now or join us." Summoning her courage, Sarah held up Eleanor's diary. "I know what happened here. I know you're trapped. Tell me how to free you." The figure recoiled, its form flickering. The voices rose in a cacophony, pleading, screaming, accusing. As Sarah stood her ground, a blinding light burst forth from the diary, illuminating the room. The shadows screamed, their forms dissolving into the air. When Sarah awoke, she was outside the manor, the diary clutched in her hands. Blackwood Manor stood silent and foreboding, its windows dark. Though the spirits had been released, she felt an emptiness, as if part of her had been left behind. As Sarah walked away, the house seemed to watch her, its facade shifting ever so slightly. Blackwood Manor remained, waiting for the next curious soul to cross its threshold.